Good morning, YouTube. As the sun rises on a new day, it also rises on a new project. I promised you a new one. I told you it was in the front garage, and here behind me, you see a couple of options. Which one are we gonna pick? Do we pick the 1961 Ford Falcon, converted with 62 front sheet metal, and a sacrilegious LS1, Mustang 2 front suspension, coilovers, full disc brake conversion, 8.8, 4-link, 373s. Do we pick the hot rod? Or do we pick the sports car? The 62 Austin Healey Mark II with a 1098cc 4-cylinder. I believe it's got a 4-speed manual, maybe a 5. Pretty sure it's a 4. I think we're going to pick the Healey because it is very close to being finished. The engine's in, it just needs a couple wires hooked up, a fuel system ran, and I think it's going to go down the road. So let me get some cars shuffled around and I'll get it in the back shop where you can see it a little better. And there she is, the 62 Austin Healey. I told you we had a new project. I bought the car because I thought it was going to be a quick, cheap fix, and I wanted to save it for the next guy. I'm not a huge historian, but I'll read you a couple specs here. This is a Mark II. The Mark II was made from 61 to 64. The Mark I's are familiar. I'm sure you know those with the bug eyes. Instead of the headlights being in the fender, the headlights were on the hood, and the whole front hood tilts forward. Pretty cool looking, probably a pain to work on. And if you hit something with it, I think the whole front's got to get replaced. Good luck finding a fender for one of those. So this is the 61 to 64 Mark II. I think really about the only thing that changed was some small styling features on the inside. The front clip, I think it got a slightly larger engine, went from like a 998 to a 1099 or 1098, something like that. It's about 100 cc. A little bit bigger carburetors. I'm trying to remember from memory. I defer to the Wikipedias here. Wheelbase is 80 inches. 80 inches. The car is tiny. 130 overall length. Width is 53 inches. Height 48 inches with the roof up, which means this car probably sits about 43, 44 the way it sits now. 31,000 of these cars were made. The 61 had a top speed of 85.8 miles per hour. I would not want to drive that fast in this car. 0 to 60 in about 20 seconds. Fuel consumption, 43.5 miles per imperial gallon. Not bad. See a converter, that's about 36 mpg. And all in this car, you could have been bought brand new for 705 pounds. That's awesome. So 56 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, 62 foot-pounds of torque at 3,250. Man, what a stunt puller, right? Here's a quick tour of the car. I've got headlights, headlight buckets, new gaskets, lenses. The grill's laying over here along with the dash. We've got a decent Smith fuel gauge, tachometer, speedometer showing 70,500 miles, water and oil. It's all here. I'll use that as a template to build my walnut one. Engine's in here, and I know it's not the right shade of green. I could not find that shade of green last year when I was setting this thing up. I just couldn't find it. No one was shipping. It's a diesel Dodge. Pretty positive it's a Cummins green. And it's about 2 shades too light. It looks like a little mint julep in there. You got new belts, hoses, all new plaques. In fact, I think that is the plaque right there that gets riveted onto the valve cover. Just a ton of new parts. Plugs, wires, ignition, new brake slave cylinders, steering rack. I did not replace the rack. It wasn't leaking or anything, but there's a little bit of slop in it. Took the engine out, completely sandblasted it down to bare metal, went through the carburetors the best I could with the kit that came with the car. They're here, they operate, but I don't have much faith in those. Brake system's all new, front and back, as I mentioned. Master and slaves. There's a T over here with the pressure switch for the brake lights. This is the brake bleed. Apparently it's a pain in the butt to get to, so I extended that up here. So to bleed the clutch, you'll do that right there from now on. Let's see, hood is over here, and you can see it's got a little bit of orange peel in it. I'm not sure if it's a single or a two-stage paint. I'm guessing it's a single, but I mean, good enough for me. I had my buddy sandblast all the trim inside here and spray those. I think that's a newer GM silver, off like a newer Impala or something. I told him I just wanted it to look like aluminum, and that's what he did. Looks great. New windshield gasket, Nardi steering wheel. I had it laying around the shop. I don't even know where that came from, but it splined right on, so chuck that sucker up for a win. The seats were redone by my buddy. That is actual leather. That's Italian leather, actually. It's some pretty premium stuff. Carpet kit, you can't tell now because it's covered in cat hair. Thank you, Zeke. That should clean up well, but that's all brand new carpet. I mean, I even put in new brake and clutch pedal rubbers, so you know this thing's legit. The inspection cover for the trans, as you can see, it's been cleaned up real well. I think we resealed it, re-bearinged it, or at least rebushing the tail shaft. Everything in this car is pretty well done. That's interesting. Let's see what's in the trunk. I think that's where most of the parts are living. New tail lights, lenses, bulbs, surrounds, gaskets, new fuel tank, new lid, new tag bracket. I do have a brand new reverse light and tag light. Oh, well, looks like most of the parts have found their way. Sorry about that. Looks like most of the parts have found their way onto the car by now, but it's fresh, it's clean. I mean, this is a rust-free car. Wheels have been powder coated and painted. The tires were brand new when I bought the car, and they've already separated. They're coming apart. The whole underside's been rhino lined or rubber undercoated of some sort. I don't remember what I put down there. But we did this car right. We took it apart, nut and bolt, and sandblasted everything, hung everything up on racks, and painted everything with real automotive paint. This is probably one of the nicer cars that I've gotten to refinish, so pretty excited about it. And I'm kind of annoyed it's taking me this long. It needs just a little bit of refinishing, but it is very, very close. And ooh, I've seen some parts laying over here. There's the original steering wheel. I think it's like an 18-inch steering wheel. This white one. It's pretty cool, actually. I think the guy had that redone because I'm sure it was cracked in about 400 pieces. Filled in all those cracks with epoxy or Bondo or something, sanded it down and shot it with some white, and touched up the accents with some red here. Brand new stainless steel exhaust laying down here. This is kind of the Healey bucket O parts. This is just Healey area. Here's what's left of the new parts I ordered from Victoria British. I think that's where most of the parts came from, was Victoria British. I've got a stack of receipts over there. I don't even want to look at those because I'm sure I spent a college education on parts to fix this thing. Well, I suppose I owe you a story on the car as to why does a guy get a car like this and get it mostly done and then let it sit for 10 years? And, well, there's really no good answer on that other than time just kind of took over. You know how it goes. We had the best of intentions and time just got the best of us. You want in here? You want in here? Well, I guess to give you the backstory, my friend Cameron and I, gosh, it's got to be 9, maybe 10 years ago now, saw this on Facebook Marketplace or maybe even Craigslist back then. I think he originally listed the car for $7,500 or so. As it was listed as a complete basket case. All the parts were there, just needed to be reassembled. Do you want in or not? So I inquired on it, but I didn't have $7,500 bucks. I didn't even have half that. I let it simmer for a couple weeks, and he brought his price down to 5 or 6,000. And I let it simmer a couple more weeks, and I noticed he was down to 3. And I messaged him and I said, "Hey man, I see you dropping the price. Do you need this gone?" And he said, "I need this gone like yesterday. Make me a reasonable offer, and I won't refuse it." So I called up a buddy, and we put our money together, and we drove about an hour to go look at it. The story goes, the gentleman painted cars in his garage, kind of like I do, was doing some side work, had painted for years, and picked this project up through a mutual friend or something. And the guy that brought him the car wanted the car painted and put in, I think it was a sports bar. I don't know if it was going to go inside or outside of the sports bar, but this guy wanted the car to look nice to sit on display at a sports bar. Maybe they're going to hang it from the ceiling. I'm not totally sure on that. So the guy paints it, makes it beautiful, and the original owner, wouldn't you guess, just had some money problems. I don't know the details, but the painter never got paid, and the car sat for years in his barn. And every time he looked at it, he was reminded of all the money he lost. So he got fed up, listed it on Craigslist, and that's where I came in. That's when it became mine. To live inside of a restaurant, anything that at one time had fluids in it had to be removed from the car. So the guy did that, and he didn't do it nice. He came in here with wire cutters and some cut off wheels and cut most of the stuff out of the car. Not happy about that. He told me everything came with the car, and it would be easy to put it all back together. And as soon as we got it home and started unboxing parts, we found out that was not the case. The guy had just ripped the car apart, which required us to spend about $3,000 worth of replacement parts through various catalogs online. So we had this car, and it looked beautiful. It really did. But the engine was in one pile, the transmission was in another, the brakes were out, the clutch was out, the fuel the whole fuel system was out, the radiator was out. Pretty much everything under the car was removed. It was a roller in all the sense. So we had to make a determination: are we going to restore this car? Because, like I said, the body was perfect. I mean, it's got a really beautiful paint job on it. Or are we going to restore the car, or are we just going to make a driving example of a 62 Healey and let somebody else finish it? And we went back and forth for a while and decided we'd just make a runner and a driver. And somebody else with interior knowledge could finish the interior. Somebody else with maybe the engine knowledge could tune on it and get it running just perfect. Somebody else could do the suspension. We just wanted to put it all back together, make it run, stop, and turn, and hopefully double our money. Well, as those projects go, well, as you can guess, that didn't work out. What are you doing? Well, as you can guess, that didn't work out. 2 or 3 months worth of laboring on this thing, and we realized we were going to be into this thing to our eyeballs. We're talking $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, and that's at the time about what they were bringing. So we decided to park it. And get a better plan together. And then next thing you know, 9 years later, I'm calling my friend Cameron saying, "Hey man, you still have that Healey? I hope you do." And he said, "Yeah, let's get that thing out of here." So we struck up a deal, and I bought him out of his half, and I brought it back here to the house. Since it's been here, I've put the engine in it. I've dropped the transmission in, had the seats recovered, put upholstery on the inside, and ordered a couple $1,000s worth of parts to finish it off. I guess you're kind of caught up now. I haven't turned the key. I haven't even hooked up power to anything. There's no wiring harness in the car. It's just a body with an engine and transmission sitting in it at this point. So the key components this thing needs to run. It's got a new tank, pump, and I think the lines are ran up to the front. It just needs to be hooked up. Well, it needs to be finalized. And I ordered the last piece of that puzzle, and it's in the shop here somewhere. A Weber carburetor, a 3236, I believe. A little 2-barrel. It's sitting around here somewhere. It came with the conversion intake I needed, because the SU carburetors on this were missing pieces. If you know anything about these SU carburetors, you know they're worth their weight in gold. I think the rebuild kits were a couple $100, and remanufactured carburetors were about $800, $900, maybe $1,000. before you send your cores back. And I think they want $200 or $300 for the cores if you don't have them. So those are $1,500 carburetors. That's getting tossed because I don't have the parts or the patience or the knowledge to get that wrapped up. But I'll keep them in a box, and we can always convert back later. If the next owner wants the SUs, they can rebuild them, or heck, if I get bored some weekend, maybe I'll go through them. So fuel system wise, it just needs the Weber intake and carb put on and hooked up to that new Holley pump. I have a brand new wiring harness in a box. It hasn't been installed yet. Actually, I think I might have run it through the engine bay. It's poking through the dash here. As you can see, it's gone. I've got the metal dash right there sitting on top of the engine. I've got a buddy of mine with a sawmill. He told me he's got some walnut, I believe. Some really burly walnut. And I think I'm going to use that as a pattern, and I'm going to put a nice burled walnut dash in here to kind of hopefully match this steering wheel. Maybe we'll do a shift knob or something. I got a buddy with a lathe that I think he'd have fun doing that for me. Since the interior is not really original with the seats and the door cards, I'm going to do something a little different there. You can buy all this stuff out of the catalog, but I don't want this car to look like every other car. I kind of want to add just a little bit, some custom little tasteful modifications. Like the dash and the seats, kind of class up the inside a little bit, make it look like one of the big Healeys. So wiring harness, dash. Gauges might be a little expensive. I don't know what we're going to do there. I honestly thought about getting a little 2-barrel Holley Sniper EFI up there and just hiding the little display in here somewhere. Maybe inside of a glove box or something, or under the seat. And just leaving the gauges in here as kind of dummy gauges. Probably use the fuel gauge, but that's about it. Everything else will be handled by the Holley. But that Weber was, a third the price. But I think once we get the wiring done, the fuel system hooked up, it's got a starter, we'll just throw a battery in it, turn the key, and cross our fingers. If it runs and runs well, we'll leave it alone. If it doesn't run, maybe the transmission's jacked up, or this engine's been sitting for 30 years. God only knows what's going on with it. If that engine's junk, I've got an ace up my sleeve. You might have seen it in the front garage if you were astute when I was panning around. I used to have an 01 Honda RC51. If you know what that is, it's a pretty high-strung little V-twin, 1000cc V-twin. I think they make around 120, 130 horsepower and like 100 foot-pounds of torque. Well, when I had the bike, I picked up a spare motor and sold the bike, and the motor's been sitting up in that front garage looking for a home. And since this car came with a 1098cc engine, I thought it might be kind of cool to throw that in here. So there's a potential for this to get crazy. If this engine's shot, I'm probably not gonna go find another one and go through all the hassle. If this engine's coming back out, I'm putting something fun in there, and I'm probably gonna keep the car for a while after that. So that RC51 engine, should we go that route, is going to double, almost triple the power. I kind of can't wait. Anybody else on here catch Jay Leno's interview with the guy that built the Honda, what is it, the S600? And you put an R1 engine in, the R1000 engine in it. And Jay and him drove it up through the hills in LA. That was kind of what turned me onto this car. It's a red, tiny little car just like this. And he raved about pretty much how easy it was. Granted, he seems like an engineer, and I'm just an idiot. But he seemed to convince me that could be done with just a little bit of tinkering. So if this engine's junk, we're going that route. I'm saying it right now. I'm not going to pull this and put another one in it. If that guy, what you got there, Zeeks? You done? Okay. Excuse me, I'm trying to shoot a video over here. So as I was saying, if that engine's dead, it's gone. It's getting an RC51 engine, and this thing's going to be freaking sweet. The only issue is going to be a reverse, which dude solved with the reversing gearbox mounted right underneath the shifter. He retained the sequential shifter from the R1 with just a forward, backward to shift, and then next to it was a reversing gearbox. So forward for forward, reverse for reverse. It still had a clutch. I think he used some type of a hydraulic. I've replaced all the hydraulics on this one, so there's a chance that we could just, pop this hydraulic line around to the slave cylinder on that RC51 engine, and it operates just fine. Probably a slim chance, but there's a chance. fab up a couple little motor mounts. I wouldn't want anything to not be able to be reversed. I'm not going to cut and weld on this thing. I respect the car a little bit too much. It's a little too clean for that. But that would be the plan. If this engine's shot, if it smokes, rattles, knocks, doesn't have oil pressure, you're out. But that's it. That's the new project. Hope you guys stick around and watch me finish it, because it's close. I think 2 episodes this thing will be running. I shouldn't have said that, because now you're going to hold me to it. I think maybe 3 or 4 episodes and this thing's going to be running. So hang around, cross our fingers, hopefully it runs. You know, I'm kind of half crossing my fingers that it doesn't run, because I really do want to do that RC51 engine. That would be so cool. Anyway, thanks again. See you next time. So I got some notifications yesterday from the old YouTube. And I said, I got 350 subscribers. Imagine that. A week ago, I had like 150. Thank you guys. That means a lot. 200 subscribers in a week. That's probably small potatoes for somebody else, but hey man, that means you guys are liking what I'm doing, and that gives me motivation to keep doing stuff like this. So thanks again. It means a lot.